Hi everyone, welcome to day two of the Spark Learn project. I'm pretty sure you must have practiced what Akash taught you yesterday. Today on the day two, Akash would be taking you a step further. We would talk about the advanced filters, we would talk about the Spark Air policies, and we would also learn how to submit our first effect. I'm without taking much of your time, I'm inviting Akash now. Hi
Thank you. Thanks.
Akash.
Okay, hello.
Hi. I'm giving the
Yeah.
stage to you now.
Sure.
Right.
Thank you. Welcome back to all the audience members who are watching this, and those who joined us yesterday. Also, I hope you enjoyed the creation, and you also tried your hands on the Spark AI platform. You must have tried some of the filters on your own and enjoyed how augmented reality turns out to be. This is the second session in the series. So today we'll be continuing on some of the advanced features of Spark AR. We'll try to publish a effect. We'll continue with the effect that we created yesterday. We'll add some more features to that so that we can create a complete AR filter that we can publish and expect lots and lots of people to use that. So I'll start with sharing a screen and briefly go out what we did in the yesterday's workshop, and then post that we'll see what we'll be adding today. So as you would have used already, this is the Spark Gas Studio. Since we have already created a effect already, we can go to the recent projects here directly and we'll find the latest one on the top. We'll open that. So yesterday we were working on a sort of Janmashtami themed AR filter where we had a crown on the head of the user with a peacock feather, and we had some face decoration also. So this was a very good filter to start with to understand how the face occluder works, what is the face mesh, how we use the 3D objects, how we import that, and how we can use a image on the face. So all these things we tried yesterday. I hope you guys have gone through that or have utilized that. Today we'll try to add some more things into this filter. A new thing that we'll be adding would be background segmentation for a person, and after that we'll add a 3D model which will use patch editor to have some interaction with the face expressions of the user so that we can add more interactivity to the same effect. But to start with the new thing that we are going to learn today, I'll start with the blank project first so that you can very clearly understand what are the new changes that we are doing, and then we'll the same things we will be doing in the same field, the same effect that we are building. So we'll start with a new effect now. What we are going to implement is a background segmentation. Segmentation in any terms tries to separate an object from the rest of the world so that we can add something different on to it. So currently what we are going to work on would be person segmentation. Person segmentation means that you want to uh, remove the person from the background and have those as two different entities, so that you want to change the background to something else, you can do that. Or if you want to change or add some colors onto the person specifically, that you can do. So for that we'll start with having a canvas. A canvas is a 2D plane, a 2D canvas on which you can have any of the 2D objects that you want to use in your effect. To add any object, as we learned yesterday, we can directly right click in the scene, or we can use this plus button. We'll search for canvas. First option is there. We'll insert that. Now canvas in itself is nothing, it's just an empty space to add something in the which is a 2D object. Inside canvas we add all the 2D objects. Yesterday we tried with the 2D text. Today we'll be adding a rectangle here. A rectangle is, as the name suggests, is a rectangular shape on which you can have a material, on which you can have a texture. Now this rectangle, if you can see, is on the very corner of the screen. Since we are dealing with 2D objects, if you can see in the top center top, we have a mode option. We can switch to edit 2D objects since we are dealing with 2D objects now. And it is much better to understand and move around things in this mode. Now, since we want this rectangle to completely fill this screen, what we'll do, we'll go into the inspector panel After selecting rectangle, we'll go to the inspector panel. We click on the width and we'll select fill width. We'll select the height and we'll select fill height for that. This way, whatever the shape of the screen will become, this will completely fill the screen. Now this is one rectangle. Since we are going to have a person segmentation, we'll have two such rectangles. One will have the user on it, the other will have the background on it, so that we can have two different entities which we can change around. So this first one will rename it as user. To rename any object, you can either right click on that object and go to rename, or double click also works. So any object you double click, it will go into the rename mode. One rectangle we have. Since we want a similar rectangle, all the properties same, we can use the shortcut Control D to duplicate an object. So as you saw, just when I pressed Control D, a second user rectangle was created just below that. This one will rename as background. Now, since both of them are under the canvas, it won't be easy to understand for Spark AR. So as to which of these two rectangles should be on the top and which one should be on the bottom. To avoid this confusion, what we'll do is we'll add a new layer for this user. So if you see in the properties panel after selecting user, the first option that we have is the layer. Layer is nothing else, just like the layer we have in General Word. For example, if you have a notebook or copy, the top page is the first layer, the second page will be the second layer. Similarly, here we have two rectangles. So since both of them are currently using layer 0, if you see, that means they are very parallel to each other or superimposing each other. We want the user to be on the top. So we'll select the user, we'll go into the layers, we'll create a new layer. This will be layer 1, and in this order the layers will be. So currently layer 1 is on the top of layer 0, that way. Background is already on layer 0, so it will be below that. We have these two user and background layers. Now we have to get two materials for them. So we also created some materials yesterday, so you must be knowing what's the procedure. We go into the assets, the plus button at the bottom, press that, we select material, new materials here. We'll rename that to user underscore mat to denote that it's the user material. Since we want a similar material, we'll use Control D and we'll rename this duplicated one as BG mat, which means background material. We have two materials now. Let's assign these materials to user and background. So for user, we'll select the user one. In the inspector panel, we have this materials tab, which we have interacted with yesterday also. We'll press on the plus button here and we'll select user underscore mat. For the background one, again, same process. We select the background here, go to the inspector, press on the plus button here and select the BG mat. Now both of these materials are nothing but blank materials. What we want to do with these is select both of them, change the shader type to flat since we don't want them to interact with the shadows and the lightnings and everything. We will just change it to the flat. Now what we want to do is on this user rectangle, only the person should be showing up, and on this background rectangle, anything that we want to show up should be coming up. So any background that we want should be there, just like we have the backgrounds in Zoom and other Teams and other video calling applications, a very similar thing like that. So for that, we'll select the camera in the scene hierarchy, and from the camera we will do two things. The first one is the texture extraction. This will extract the texture, the camera texture, as a new texture entity in the assets. So now once we press this, you will have seen that a new texture comes up here. The second thing is segmentation we want. So in Spark AR, we have three kinds of segmentations that we can do. We have a person segmentation in which you can segment or separate the person out of the camera feed. The second one would be the hair segmentation, where you can segment the hairs from the camera feed and you can apply some kind of color or some kind of superimposition augmentation on that. And the third one would be the skin. So for our use case, we'll select with the person. And since just as we click there, we got another texture which named as segmentation mask texture. We have two textures now. We'll utilize this in the user mat, the material that we have added to the user. So here what we want is on the camera, the texture option we have, go to the drop down and select the camera texture here. Now, as and when you select this camera texture, the camera feed will come up. But one more thing that we want to add is alpha. This is not ticked right now. This property under the user material is not ticked right now because we're not using alpha. Alpha relates to transparency of any object. So we'll select that. And in the texture, we'll select the segmentation mask texture. Now, for now, you might be thinking that there is no change happened after we did this, but a big change has happened. And to showcase that, I'll turn back to my camera. And as you can see, the background of my video feed is now completely white, which means the background segmentation is working and you cannot see the background of my room. This means the background segmentation has started working. To see it more further, what we'll do is we'll go to the BG mat, that is the background material, and let's change the color here to something like red, or let's change it to green. Now you can see we have a green background behind me, which means the person segmentation has started working and we have successfully set up the person segmentation. Now in the background, you can add anything you want. For the use case that we are working on, the Gen Mask filter, what we will do is we'll have a themed background for that specifically. So with this small test demo, you would have understand what and how we'll implement a background segmentation. We'll very quickly do that in our filter also, that we are creating. So I'll close this project that we're working on. We are back to the project that we were working on initially. Sorry. Yep. Let's do anything else. So this was the that we're working on. Let's add background segmentation here also. So what were the steps? If you remember correctly, it was we'll add a canvas first. We'll right click on the canvas and we'll add rectangle. We'll rename this rectangle as user. We will fill its width and its height so that it completely fills up the screen. We want a similar one, so we'll select user material, user rectangle. Press Ctrl D to duplicate that. We'll have a second one. We'll rename it as background. There we go. Now we want two new materials. We'll go to the plus tab here to add a material. We'll rename that to user underscore mat. We'll duplicate that. We'll have another material named as bg underscore mat for the background. Awesome. What is the next step? We assign these materials to user and background rectangles. So we'll go to user, we'll click on material, and we'll assign it the user material. So background, we'll go to background, press on the plus button here and assign the BG mat. Both of them are done. One thing that I forgot was to select these materials and change the shader type to black. Awesome. Now the next step would be selecting in camera. We'll first extract the texture extraction and we get the segmentation, the person segmentation. Both of these textures are added here. We can now go to the user mat or the user material, change the texture of this user mat to camera texture 0 so that it shows up the camera. Okay, one step that we forgot was adding a new layer. That is why you see what is happening is both the layers are on the same level, and even if the user layer is showing up the video, they are on the same layer. That is why you're not able to see that. That is like demonstration. We'll go ahead and create a new layer, and as and when we create a new layer, this user layer comes to the top of the background layer, and now we can see the user. Awesome. So we were editing the user material. The first step we already did, changing the texture to camera texture 0. And the second step now we'll do is to select the alpha and change the texture as segmentation masks texture 0. Great, the effect is already in progress. And one more thing that I like to show you guys is if you select inside this texture the segmentation mask texture 0, you can edit some of the properties there. To showcase what are the effects, let's change the background color to something as blue. Right. Let's go to segmentation mask texture. If you increase or decrease the edge softness, you can see how the edge around the person is getting softer or it's getting hard. This property we can edit as well as we can edit the mask size. So the boundary across the user, we can increase that boundary or decrease the boundary depending on the use case that we are working on. Perfect. Let's change back the color to white. And let's add a background image to that. So for this use case, I have picked up a similar theme background image. For your filters that are around your team, you can have something first on the internet. Make sure you have copyright free images used here, otherwise you will be in some problem. So generally try to use anything that is copyright free. This one is, so we'll just drag it, drop it inside Spark AR Studio in the textures place. The image is here. Now in the background material, let's select the background material and change the texture to the background image that we brought in. And as you can see, immediately the background has changed. You can see that with the web camera also, so that we can see the same effect. Now one thing that we'll be observing is the bug is that once we go a little backward towards from away from the camera, the things that we earlier worked on the ground and the other things are getting removed. We'll see how to fix that. And this is a part of debugging which is very important to understand how to find out the errors and how to fix them. Great. So this is because these two materials are currently writing to depth also. This is one of the properties that you can edit. You can select both of these material, go to the advanced render options here, and we can tick both them off. And other thing is to add the crown in a separate top layer. So we'll create a new layer, and once we click on create new layer, it will ask whether you want to add the only this object or the children's also. So we'll add the object and the children's to a new layer, that is layer 2, and we'll that makes it on the top of the current image that we have. One more thing that we will change here is for the plane 0 also will do the same thing, because that is the peacock method. We also want it to be on the top of all the rectangles that we have already added. So that works well, and you can see the background image is assigned. This was the very first part of our second workshop. So we have successfully added a person segmentation and a background. Now let's move ahead and let's add something using a patch editor. Okay. Great. So we'll use the patch editor, which is a sort of no-code visual coding system that is provided by Spark AR. Since we cannot see any window for a patch editor, the easiest way to bring that back would be either you can go to the View tab here, and from the View tab you can enable some of the things, some of the windows that are not open right now. For example, the patch editor window. We'll click on Show Patch Editor. This will come up. This is the patch editor window. It looks like a completely empty grid, but we can do a lot using this empty grid. To start with, what we can see in this is, let's right click anywhere inside this patch editor to see what are the options for us. So we have a number of options that we can select from. All these individuals are called as patches. So this animation player would be a patch. Inside, let's say, inside the audio, we have audio player, that is also a patch. And when you click on any patch here, you will get to know what are the inputs, what are the outputs, and what this patch does. For example, using the audio player, use this patch to combine the audio clips in a project with either single or multi-clip controller. It tells us that you can combine multiple audio clips which you want to play in this in your effect. We'll do that also. So this is the patch editor and everything that you want to add interactivity, add logic to your filters. You can do that from here. So let's start with bringing a new 3D object in our picture. We'll go to the asset library as we went yesterday. We'll quickly try to paste this up. Let's search for a flute. View all so that we can see all the images and we can select the best one. I can see this one. This is not so good. Let's quickly select a good one. This looks good. Okay, good. So this flute looks good. We'll import that. All that 3D importing system is inbuilt, and you must have tried in the yesterday's workshop also to import 3D object from within Spark. Yeah. It's taking some time. Probably will set for some others also. No other good option. Let's go back to the one we were adding. It's taking some time to download. Done. Great. So since it is downloaded, you can see the option coming up in the assets. We'll quickly drag it and drop it on the top of the face tracker so that it is following what the face is doing. The shape and size of the flute is not correct. We'll pause it. Let's zoom it a little bit. Size is extremely big. We'll decrease the size to something like this. I'll decrease the size in one axis only. We'll move it a little bit so that it comes around the lips. There you go. And we'll do a little rotation so that we can see that it looks like a little flute. Perfect. Let's do a little more movement towards the end. Awesome. Let's play and see coming like this. The whole little misplaced down there. These are small tweaks that you can do. Awesome. So we have the flute here, and what you can see is it's always visible around the player. Let's see. Let's say we want this flute to be visible only when the user smiles. So this is kind of a logic and interaction that we want to add. To do that, what we'll do is in the patch editor, we'll right click, and if you go to the interactions tab here, these are the various interactions that you can work around with. For example, blink, happy face, object tap, screen pinch, screen tap. So today that we are working on this is smiling. So we select smile and we click on add patch. So this small rectangle is a patch of a smile filter. So whenever the user smiles, this out there will be an output generated from this end, which we can use to interact with anything in the screen. But since for this smile to work, we need to give the input. The input in this case is a face. So to do that, we'll right click a little back and we'll search for face. We get a face finder. We'll use that. Now face finder gives as an output as faces. Faces is a plural word, which means if you have 2 to 3 people in the camera screen, it will return all the faces. So within those faces, we want to use a face select so that we select the first face that we get. Currently, the index of this face select is set to 0. That means the very first index in computer language. The array starts with a 0, so this is the very first face that the camera will find. It will select that face. If you want to have 2 faces in the camera, you can add another face select patch here, and you can select the index 1 face. For us, this works. We'll connect this to this. Now we are done. So what we want to do is, if the person is smiling, this flute should be visible. Now to do that, we want this flute's visibility, this tab, if you uncheck that, it will be invisible. If you check that, it will be visible. You want to control this using this smile patch. So to do that, if you see some of the inspector elements for all the scene objects, you will see an arrow with them. This arrow means that we can control them using the patch editor. So we'll click on this visible arrow, and just as we click, a yellow colored patch comes in, which means this is a property which is controlled in the inspector, and we can now change that using the patch editor. We'll directly connect that with the smile filter, and this should work now. So currently the user is smiling, and we can see the flute right now. And let's wait. Now the person has stopped smiling, and we see the flute getting turned off. We'll use a camera also to showcase whether it's working or not. Currently, not able to see the flute, and if I smile, you can see the flute coming up. Awesome. So let's add this. This is a very small interactive patch. In general, you will find a large number of patches that will be used for a single effect, and that is very normal for all the effects. We generally have a lot of patches. This gets a little complicated, but you can always use some of the features. For example, if I want to make this complete setup as one patch, I'll right click here and I'll group them. This will become a single patch, which makes the process very simple. I'll use Control Z to undo that. Great. So this has been so good. Let's do one more thing. So let's add some audio to this effect. And since we already have a flute, it will be great to have a flute audio to play around with that. Since we are talking about our audios, let's also discuss what kind of audios you can use with Spark AR. So in Spark AR, in general, it supports M4A kind of audio effects. I'll just give me a second. I'll bring that up. We can find, yes. So this is the settings of the audio effect that you would be using in Spark AR. It only supports M4A files that should be having a 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, and should be mono channel audio with M4A format and 44 kilohertz sample rate. So if you're not very familiar with all these things, and if you have, let's say, an MP3 file or some other audio file which is not in this format, you can always use some of the online tools or some of the softwares to convert that. The one that I find very comfortable is this tool called as onlineaudioconverter.com. You can go to this tool, you can select conversion format as M4A and open this advanced setting tab and convert the channel to one. Channel one means it's a mono audio. So using this, you can convert your files to an M4A format supported by Spark AR. I already have done that to save some time for us. This is a flute audio in an M4A format that is supported by Spark AR. We'll drag it, and similarly we'll drop it inside the assets panel. We have the audio here. I'm not very sure whether you are able to hear that or not, but I can confirm that it's playing. But what we want to do is we want to add this audio file, and we want to play this audio only when the user smiles. Just when the flute comes up, we want this audio to be played. So the very first thing is we can drag this audio from the assets to the patch editor directly, and it will be converted into a patch. This patch is an audio clip. Now, for adding any audio in the scene, what we want would be a speaker. So very similar process. We'll click on the plus button here. We'll search for speaker. There it comes. We'll insert that. Here we have the speaker object, and in the speaker object, if you see, we have the tick which tells us whether it's audible or not. We can select the audio file directly from here also, and we can set the volume. But what we want is we can set this audio through the patch editor also, whatever the speaker will play. So let's get a patch for this audio here, and there we have it. But since you can see both of them are not very same, this is an audio clip and this is an audio that you want to insert that. So to do that, we'll right click here and go to the audio panel here, and we'll need is an audio player here. An audio player converts an audio clip to an audio which can be used by the speaker inside Spark AR. Select that, connect this audio clip to the input in the audio player. Let's do that again. Awesome. And this audio to the speaker. Now comes the question that how we will control when this audio plays and when this audio stops. So to do that, we will need is a single clip controller, which we saw earlier also. So this is a single clip controller. What it does is it plays, stops, or loops a single audio clip at a time. Since we are dealing with a single audio clip right now, we'll use this patch, and there it comes. So what all it takes is an input. It takes a play, it takes a stop or loop. And with those options, you can see a square and a circle inside that. This means this takes a pulse as an input. A pulse is a one-time output generated for an impulse action or a one-time action that you want to perform. I'll not complicate that for you for now. So what you want to do is, once the person smiles, we will directly connect that to play. And just as we connect, a new pulse patch is added. Do not worry, it's a general pulse patch that will convert any Boolean kind of input. A Boolean is a true or false input, so that it will convert into a pulse. And what we will do is the turned off. So what it does currently is, if the person smiles, it will turn on, it will give a pulse for play. And if it's turned off, we'll give a pulse for stop. And this controller will connect with the audio player. All done. Let's rearrange a little bit so that everything looks good. Awesome. So our patches are good in shape right now. We'll try to test it. I'm not sure why if my computer audio is shared with you, but I can assure you once the person smiled, the fluid got visible and we heard the audio with the filter. This will work similarly when the filter is published and the person is using this filter in an Instagram app or the Facebook application. So this way we now have an audio also connected with the effect. So this was the second thing that we wanted to test for today. This now becomes a very complete AR effect which you can publish and then share around with your friends. We can also tweak which interaction we want to use here. For example, currently we are using smile here. Let's right click and see what other options we had. So we'll go to interactions here. We have the blink option. So when someone blinks, it will give an output. We can have eyebrows interactions. We can have a happy face, a nod, head shake, a kissing face, mouth open, all those things. So for example, if you are trying to play a flute, it would look something like a kissing face. We'll add that patch now. And let's replace the smile patch. Let's delete that. And instead, let's use this one. So all the connections that were earlier made, will reconnect that. And let's see if it works. So we'll have to wait for the person to do that emotion. Not sure whether it's working or not. You might have to change the video a little bit. I'm not sure which one would have that effect. Or we can add some other interaction also. Let's do that. Let's control the everything, and we are back. The audio is a little loud, so what we can do is you can decrease the volume from the speaker option here also. We'll keep it something around 29. This looks good. Awesome. So we can add some other interactions also which we want to do. For example, let's go to the interactions, and let's see, we have a screen tap here. The screen taps means the person taps anywhere on the screen. We can use that as an interaction also. Now we have it here. So let's replace the smile one with the screen tap. Same connections. Okay, no, we don't need a face select now, so we'll keep it aside. We'll add this here, and we'll add it here. Now this adds a switch patch. A switch patch means when we want to convert a pulse type of object directly into a boolean, that we the exact opposite of what we did earlier. So now since the screen tap generates a pulse, we can directly connect that to the play and stop options here. That means since this is a pulse type of object, we can directly connect it to a pulse type of input. And since it is a pulse type of output, we need a switch to convert it to a boolean. That is done now, and let us try that. Check that, let us play. And since we cannot touch on this virtual screen right now, what we want to do is go to the options here in the user menu, and we can select simulate touch, which means we want to simulate or try to mimic the person touching the screen. Very similar thing. So if you can see, a cursor comes up and we can touch here, and as I touched, the flute came up and the audio is playing. I can touch again to change that. Great. So this was a screen tab that you can utilize. You can use that for other interactions also. For example, you want uh, all these decorations to be coming up when this person taps on the screen, or maybe something around that. So these things you can do. We'll also see some other patches that we can utilize here. For example, you would have if you have been on Instagram and so use some of the effects, one of the very famous one is this head rotation. The head rotation one, for example, there are some quiz based filters where you select one of the option by tilting your head one way or the other way. This left lean or right lean state is used for that interaction. So the user leans his head toward left, the left option would be selected. If he leans towards right, the other one will be selected. So these are interactions. Similarly, since recently this part we also have body tracking, and these are the some of the patches which are used for body tracking, which you can utilize, and some of the interfaces or UI that you can add here. So this was a very basic implementation of the patch editor. Generally, when you go ahead and take bigger effects or some complex effects, you'll see that this will keep going. So so what you have to do is you can utilize this group that we saw before that, and you can comment around some object. For example, it will create a box around it, and you can name it as something like flute mechanism, and this makes it easier for you to later understand. For example, you started working on it first day, and the second day you came back, you'll easily understand what this area is all about, the patch editor, what you can work around. This show map button will also help you to quickly move around with the map. So once it gets very large, you can quickly move around with that. Great. So this is a complete AR effect that we have created. Now we'll go ahead with the second step of publishing that, so that we can share this effect with the users, your friends, and that you can make it public for anyone on the Spark, on the Facebook and Instagram platform to use it. Now, before publishing it, we'll go through some of the policies that Spark AR short sort of says before it's making any effect public. It screens each and every effect that comes to the platform. So for publishing effects, this is the process. You upload your effect file to Spark AR Hub. which is online platform, and you can add an icon or video to it, which means it will be easier for other people to understand what that AR effect is. You submit the effect, and for up to 5 days it will take to get accepted, and if it is accepted, your effect will be in action. You can see it, and you can see the numbers going and people sort of using that. So to publish an effect, some of the prior things that you have to do is to choose a good name for your effect, and we have some policies around that also. You have to upload the project as an AR export file. We'll see that in a moment. You have to be sure about which platform you want to share that effect in. For example, you want to be shared on both Instagram and Facebook, or just on one of those platforms. Who is the owner of the effect and who is the publisher of the effect? So sometimes you are not the only person who is creating the effect. You want to create an effect for a brand or for a Instagram page that you have created. So you can change those things so that it comes up in the Spark AR, that who is the owner of the filter. Let's go ahead, who choose an audience or to who you want to showcase the product. You can give some categories and keywords so that people who are trying to find things around those keywords will get it easily. You can add a demo video also around with it, which is a very good thing, so that people before using the effect knows what is the effect and how it works. If you don't want to publish the effect right away, you can choose a publication date around, let's say, some festival or something like that. You can choose a publication date. And once you have submitted the application, you can wait for it to be accepted. And before it getting accepted, you can get a testing link, which can be shared with a closed community of 50 people maximum in a day, and only the people who have that link will be able to access that. Okay, so you have a good sort of detailed category wise explanation of what are the different things that you have to do for that. You can go ahead on the sparkar.facebook.com platform, and inside that you can find what are the policies, what are guidelines, and everything. So I'll suggest you all to go through the documentations of the Spark AR if you are stuck anywhere in the process of creating an effect. It's a great documentation. It explains about everything that you have created and whatever you want to work on. For example, we worked on background segmentation today. Let's see and find out person segmentation on Spark AR's platform. So the complete guide that we worked on, you can find very similar kind of step-by-step guide on the Spark AR platform. You can utilize that also. Great. Let's go ahead and publish our filter that we created today. To do that, we'll go on this publish button, which is just below the asset library and test. Once you click on that, you'll see three options here. The first is what do you want to do with your effect, whether you want to publish it or you want to update any existing effect. Since it's a new effect, the first one option will select. You can record a live demo of the video, a demo video for your Instagram filter to be added. I haven't selected the platform. If you have already selected, it will come up here. Let's again select a sharing experience. This is not a video call experience. We have done that. Let's record a short video for this effect so that it comes up. I'll change the camera source. Great. Let's record. I've recorded a very short demo. You can take time and make sure it looks good. It will prepare for some time. Take that moment. Let's save it. That video is saved. Awesome. Now, if you see, there are two options below that also, and they say one thing is whether the size of the files that we have used in this effect, whether it is correct or not. So currently we have a warning which says file is over some limit for some platforms. We'll click on view file size and it will show us what are the file sizes that we have. So currently for iOS and Android, we have it within the limits, which is 4 MB for Instagram and 10 MB for Facebook. But for older Androids, we have a little larger file size. Let's see which file is occupying space. To do that, we'll go to view asset summary here. And we'll cancel the upload. Something is uploading in the background, which we'll cancel. Awesome. So what is taking space? If you see here in the original size tab, textures are taking 3.6 MB of space, and 3D objects are taking 2.3 MB of the space. Let's see which textures they are taking the highest amount of space. The first one is a default base texture. I think this is something around the fluid. And let's delete that. We'll select the other default normal texture, which is also with the fluid. We might delete that, or we can do is we can compress those also. But for now, to save some time, we'll delete those. And we can directly do is we can have a new material. Let's say material 0, and we'll change the color around something in brown, which suits around the fluid theme, and we'll add that to the fluid. Check. Great. So now we are not using the texture that was coming with this object, so that we can save some space. Let's go back to the publish object here, and now we should see that size compatibility matching. So it is matching now, and we can go ahead and publish the effect. The recording video that we did not get uploaded. We'll re-record that. Great, we did that a little quickly. So take some time. Great, let's save it and press on the upload button. What it will do is it will create an AR export file for the complete effect, and it will upload that to the Spark AR Hub platform, from where we'll do all the remaining formalities and we'll get our effect published. Let's wait for it to get uploaded. Meanwhile, you saw what this asset summary does. It tells you what are the different objects that you are using and what is occupying how much space, so that you can easily remove those extra things that you're not using, or try to compress those objects that are taking more space than needed. The upload completed, and we are now going to the Spark AR Hub space. Now here, when you come to the publish an effect window, you have to give a unique name to your AR effects. Let's call it AR Canvas. Tell me, this looks good. This file will be auto uploaded if you come through the Spark AR Studio, so you don't need to change anything here. We are publishing for both Instagram and Facebook, so that is turned on. So now you can select what is your audience. So if you want the audience to be everyone on the Spark, the Instagram and Facebook platform, you can do this. Or if you want to share with a limited number of people, you can create a link only effect, which will be immediately available with the link, so that you can share that. Now you have two options to select. For example, the first one would be the owner. So that would be all the pages, all the accounts that you own with this Facebook ID that you have created, and you can also edit the other platform IDs that you want to select. So, for example, for Instagram, you want to select a different ID, and for Facebook, you can do that. And if you are done with everything, for example, let's make it a public effect. Let's yeah, everything is cool. Yeah, so when you're dealing with public effects, you have to select the category of the effect. For example, word AR or immersive. You can add some keywords here. This is not a word AR and immersive effect. This is an appearance selfie effect, or let's say something else that fits our theme. This looks good. Cool. So we can select a demo video thumbnail also, which will come up on the video. And if you have worked with someone else also, you can add the collaborator here. What should be the publication date? Let's publish it immediately and we'll submit this. So after this submission, it will take around 5 days, and after that, you will be getting this effect public, and you can share that with your friends and family and people around the platform. On the platform, Instagram and Facebook will be able to use that, and you will be officially a part of the content creator community, which creates these awesome effects, so that people can keep creating these creative videos and use this platform for a good social interaction. It will take some time because the upload will happen in background, and just after that the effect will be submitted and you will get a congrats page coming up. Great. It says your effect is now in review and it will take some around 5 days to be done. Awesome. Anytime you can come back here and select the review option to see whether it's done or not. Perfect. And if you want to share that with your friends, you can use the share button to get a temporary link, but it won't be uh, a public link. So once the effect is ready, this link will be working. But if you want to get a testing link, you can click on option and get a test on device link, which is limited to 50 users per day. You can get that link from here. Awesome. So we have created a good AR effect with some of the advanced capabilities today. We saw how to use the patch editor. We saw how to add background segmentation to the user. We also saw how to make a 3D object visible and not, invisible with the interactions through the patch editor. So I hope you like this learning session, and you will definitely try to go ahead and use these advanced AR effect filters and these features of Instagram and Facebook to create some of the good content. So this was it for today. If you guys like the learnings, you can go ahead and check some of the other videos on the Reskill platform and go through the Sparkia documentations if you get stuck with something, and go ahead and create some of the great AR effects and participate in the competitions that Reskill will be organizing very soon for you in the hackathons, and all the best for that. So for today, this was it. If you have any questions, you can post in the chat. I'll see that. And yes, in the comment section, you have the submission form for the effects that you create. You can post that there. Great. So that was it for today. Thanks a lot for everyone who joined this video call and who was part of this learning journey of Spark AR. I hope you guys continue learning Spark AR and augmented reality in general. And I wish all the best for you to participate in all the coming competitions with Reskill team. Thank you.
Hi. So, any questions, guys? Akash, thank you so much. I don't see any questions here. Thank you for your time. And to all of you present here, please share your effects on the submission form that I have shared with you in the chat. And we really look forward to having some amazing effects from you all, and see how creatively you can implement what Akash has tried to teach you in the last 2 days. Thank you so much, and have a great evening. And thank you very much, Akash.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye bye.